Greetings and welcome back to L.A. Quill, the hearth where stories take shape and imagination finds its wings. Today we're diving into one of the great creative journeys, writing your first novel. Whether you've just started sketching out your world or you've got a half-finished manuscript gathering digital dust, this video is for you. Writing a good novel isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and not a little stubbornness. But it's also one of the most rewarding experiences a storyteller can have. So today I'm sharing 5 practical, personal, and proven tips to help keep your creativity flowing and your story moving forward. First, I want you to make writing a habit. Every author has their ideal rhythm, that time of day when the words seem to flow more easily. For me, it's the early morning. That quiet stretch before lunch when the world hasn't quite woken up yet, and when it's still just me. That's my writing time. But your golden hour might be midnight, or that moment after dinner when the house finally goes quiet. The point is, find it, protect it, and make it sacred. Writing a novel isn't just about inspiration, it's about consistency. Even 15 minutes a day adds up. That small act of showing up for your story tells your brain, this is important. It builds momentum. And once writing becomes a habit, like brushing your teeth or making coffee, it stops feeling like a chore. It becomes part of who you are. Now, there are some other things you can do other than just writing every day. There's other things you can do to encourage yourself to write. Try playing some appropriate music. Music is one of the most powerful tools for creative flow. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to emotion, which is exactly what your stories are made of. If you're writing a medieval fantasy, try folk or bardic or instrumental pieces. For action scenes, maybe a cinematic soundtrack. For quieter emotional moments, ambient or piano scores can open doors in your imagination that you didn't even know were there. But here's one caution. If your playlist has lyrics, avoid songs that you love too much. The temptation to sing along is real, and it catches all of us. You want your focus on your world and on your writing, not on your vocal range. So if you get really into the music, maybe tone down the lyrics. Treat music as a bridge into your story's mood. Let it guide tone and pacing, but not distract from it. You also want to take advantage of plot storming. Even the most experienced writers hit points where the story just stalls. You know what I mean. When your characters stop talking or your plot feels like it's walking in circles around itself. That's when it's time to step away from the manuscript and start plot storming. Think of it like creative cartography. You're drawing a map of your story's possibilities. So grab a notebook, go somewhere quiet, very quiet if possible, and start jotting down key events, the emotional beats, the character turning points, things that make your story what it's supposed to be. Personally, I love using bubbles and lines, almost like a web. I'll write each major moment inside its own bubble, then connect them like stepping stones. Soon, patterns will start to appear. Suddenly, I can see the structure of the novel forming beneath my work. I can see it starting to take shape. Your story doesn't have to stay locked inside a straight line. Sometimes a little side exploration, a little playing around, will reveal new plot threads that make your world richer and more alive. So while you are plot storming, allow yourself to expand the story beyond what you originally intended. It might not make it into the final novel, but having these events in your spider web lets you know that they're there if you decide you need them. And this one's going to be a little controversial because I don't necessarily follow it myself. but I recommend turning the TV off, or at the very least not watching something you're paying attention to. All right? It sounds simple, I know, but it's a big one. Turn off that TV or make sure it's not something you are actively engaged in. Television is full of noise. It's visual and emotional and narrative. And when you're trying to create something original, that noise can drown out your own voice. Writing requires mental stillness, a kind of internal silence where your imagination can breathe. Most TV shows are never going to provide that. They just won't. Okay? They can't. They fill your brain with someone else's story, someone else's rhythm. Now, if you absolutely must have background noise, choose something that fuels creativity and, something beautiful with historic scenes, a documentary about mythology, a film that inspires you in your drama. Make sure it's something that enhances your imagination rather than suffocates it. And make sure it's not something you're just staring at, right? You're supposed to be working on your novel, not staring at the screen. So if you are, and my TV goes all the time. My TV's playing now. I have it silenced, but my TV is always going. But I make sure that I'm not watching something that's going to enrapture me, or I'm going to watch the show instead of doing what I'm doing. I use it as background noise. There's nothing wrong with using your television as background noise. Just make sure that it's not distracting you from what you're intending to do. There's time for TV later. And finally, my final recommendation is to read. Sounds simple? Read everything. Read beyond your genre. Read authors you admire and authors you've never heard of. Read the greats and the obscure storytellers whose prose feels like whispered magic. Reading fuels writing in ways nothing else can. It teaches rhythm, structure, voice, and possibility. Every sentence you absorb becomes part of your writer's vocabulary. Even when you're stuck, especially when you're stuck, reading keeps the creative current alive. It reminds you that words are infinite, and that every story ever written started with someone daring to try. So never feel guilty for spending time with a good book, or a bad book. Doesn't matter. That's not procrastination, it's training. You're learning what to do or what absolutely not to do. Embrace the reading. If you love to write, you probably love to read. Don't let that go. Writing a novel, it can feel like walking through a fog. Uncertain and sometimes lonely, but always full of potential. These 5 habits, writing consistently, using music intentionally, plot storming your way through problems that crop up, and turning off distractions, and then reading wisely. They're not just productivity hacks. They're ways of staying connected to your story, even when the path feels unclear. Because every novelist, even the great ones, has faced the same doubts you do. Is this good enough? Will I ever finish? Does any of this even make sense? The answer always is yes. If you keep going. If you keep trying. And that's our tale from L.A. Quill today. What writing habit helps you most when motivation runs low? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.